You're listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
All right, welcome to In the Lab with Jennifer and my lovely co-host Tamar.
Hello.
And we have a very, very special guest today, and that is Betty Aldworth. Hi, Betty.
Hi, ladies.
Betty Aldworth is the Deputy Director of NCIA, which is the National Cannabis Industry Association, helping cannabis move forward on a national level. And so we are going to hear from her and hear how she got started and what's going on and in the national sector and policy and things like that.
Just as soon as I'm done tweeting.
All right, tweet away.
I have to let the Twitterverse know that I'm here.
So I'd just like to say that last week we had Michael on the phone and we were talking about PTSD and sexual abuse. And Michael and his girlfriend were actually in my lab earlier today, which was very cool. She's a scientist. She's a microbiologist and works in a microbiology lab in Chicago, which is pretty neat. Maybe not exactly Chicago, but outside Chicago. Mm-hmm. So that was very exciting. They got to see the science going on. They were pretty impressed. It was pretty cool. I know that I got a lot of compliments on the show last week, and I really hope that, it touched some people enough to, make them, if they're not having luck with anything else, that they might want to try cannabis for that.
Definitely.
So, but yeah, we did sexual abuse last week. I always think of PTSD as, military.
Mm-hmm.
Combat instead of, PTSD, just a traumatic event.
It's pediatric maltreatment associated PTSD. So it's any kind of sexual abuse, violence, neglect. It's different than combat because the child's brain is developing as it's happening. So
right.
It's amazing that the new research is showing that the endocannabinoid system is what is hit the most when you do have a traumatic event. And so adding those phytocannabinoids brings the brain back to equilibrium.
Very, very fascinating. Have you talked to anybody, Betty, regarding PTSD and any kind of situation?
Well, certainly, as a longtime feminist activist, I've been well aware of PTSD and sexual trauma, its relationship to sexual trauma. And while I'm very glad that we're having such a robust dialogue across the nation right now about PTSD for veterans, one of the things that is frequently overlooked in that conversation is the fact that there are so many men and women who are suffering from sexual trauma-induced PTSD. And those folks, I think, deserve outreach by the cannabis community just as much as anyone else. And one of the really exciting things about what's happening now in the cannabis and in the intersection between cannabis and PTSD is that we are seeing some real research underway, and we're starting to have a much better understanding of why it is that so many people suffering from PTSD are finding relief from marijuana.
Right. How it works, the mechanism. It's amazing. And I'm excited for more research and more studies, case studies, more science that backs up what is being shown anecdotally, but numbers.
And really having a sense of what cannabis can do in the therapeutic setting is going to be such a fascinating set of answers for us.
I know. I cannot wait for those studies coming down. I actually had Joel with Indispensary stop by today to drop off some samples for the cadoodles, and he was very excited about some of the studies that they're doing and keeping track of and everything. But I think they are headed to do a big time study right now with, I'm not sure which doctor or what. He really hasn't said, but it'll be gigantic with these seizure disorders. Betty, there Zakai, who is kind of like the second most known child next to Charlotte. Zakai, I think, is now 10 months seizure free. Like one time, used it the first time and has not had a seizure. Obviously uses it on a continuing basis, but yeah, not one seizure.
Wow, that's just phenomenal.
I know.
We're getting such great reports from so many different states and so many different parents and children that about the positive impacts of cannabis on seizure disorders. And it's really making people think across the nation. I'm sure that you ladies, far more than I, have been getting the phone calls and the emails from random people all over the nation.
Just
wondering.
curious. It's not as hostile, because there was 80 years of propaganda. There's more curiosity. There's people who are willing to listen. So it's definitely, I'm very happy that the dialogue is open. It's opening more. The science is only going to back what we in the cannabis industry have known for a long time. So it's definitely exciting times.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually looking on Pediatric Cannabis Therapy Facebook group for parents who have sick children, and yeah, it has that harm caused by drugs. And number one's alcohol, and number two's heroin, and then crack, meth, cocaine, tobacco, amphetamines. Oh, and then cannabis. Barely can see cannabis on there. Now it's just a matter of, talking to people and giving those people the numbers that need the numbers. And, the whole goal here is to give everybody the tools, right? So if something happens, you can open your toolbox up. And if you're, and maybe you want to try cannabis, it's one of your tools, you should have the right to do that.
Right?
There's no harm trying, cannot die.
Every other molecule, there's some kind of side effect.
Yes.
With cannabis and cannabinoids, they're completely safe, non-toxic. So what is there to lose by trying?
Right. The problem is now that I'm starting to see is the differences between cannabis oil, hemp seed oil, and that kind of thing. I know that when I opened up this group the other day, they had a post up from a company in the Netherlands that makes reference standards. Okay. So they thought that they could call them up and get some pure CBD.
Ooh, just
yeah.
As for manufacturing purposes? Not as a
no,
standard.
for taking. For taking.
Okay, as a
they
product,
they
gotcha.
don't understand, right? So these parents and people go to Google and they type in CBD, and so they're going to get some of these things and not understand what they are. And yes, you can buy pure CBD, but it's in methanol and it's a mg per mil, and you can't use it. It's for laboratory purposes. Exactly.
In fact, it's very dangerous to ingest methanol.
Oh, very dangerous to ingest methanol. Yes, it is. So it's kind of educating people because now people are going and buying some hemp seed oil.
And that's really sad too, and with your lab actually, we tested hemp seed oil and it was 0.004%, but that was tweaked up because there was such a small trace amount, because the seed isn't mature enough to create the cannabinoids. And so you have a lot of good stuff. You have omegas, you have phytonutrients, but you don't have cannabinoids. The residual cannabinoid concentration is from just what's on the outside of the seed when it's produced. So it's good for you, but it's not a medicinal source of any kind of cannabinoid. So
Right.
you're right. It's about education and testing, having those numbers to show.
Right.
It's a simple matter of, here's CBD from a cannabis high CBD strain. Here's one from hemp. Here's one from hemp seed. And you can look at the different numbers. Because quite frankly, with human engineering, cannabis strains have very high amounts of CBD. I mean, I think you were saying the highest you've seen is close to, 28%? Or
In flowers, it's 20s. I
Okay,
can't
which
remember
is-
the exact name or number, but yeah, I mean,
Which is
20 to
amazing.
1 in a flower.
Coming from 0 to maybe
Right.
less than 1%.
Oh, yeah.
A while ago.
Right.
And
3
now-
years ago, 2 years ago.
Because the focus is on that cannabinoid, but there's so many other cannabinoids and
Right.
molecules, and so
Right.
we just need to, we can meticulously research each of these elements and then therapeutically see how they work together, and then you can kind of, modify and make a medicine specifically for different ailments and different people for different purposes, all while having natural elements and still have the purity and the safety of the whole plant.
Right.
Instead
right.
of stripping it down to one molecule.
Right. And that's what we've been trying to talk about is, you have Marinol, which is synthetic THC. 4 people have died so far from it. So what does that tell you? Plus the fact that I haven't talked to one person that has actually worked for. Somebody told me it just made them hungry.
And there's
That's
some
it.
scary, I've heard some scary side effects like auditory and visual hallucinations.
Really?
Like one, and he was he was 19, and he was prescribed Marinol for his bipolar disorder because, it's not legal to smoke cannabis, when he's younger. So he was going, with his MD, his psychologist, but his hallucinations were so strong he was trying to drive, which I don't think you're supposed to do anyway.
No.
But he saw someone run up to his window and ask him to roll down the window, and so he rolled down the window and blinked, and there was no one there. So I mean, interacting with the hallucination is kind of scary.
That is scary.
And he felt more paranoid, more anxious, jittery.
Because again, and those are all things from THC. So I can't imagine
And
pure
it's not-
THC stripped away from everything else.
and
right?
it's not even pure, organic THC because it is synthetically made. So you have elements that wouldn't be found in the plant because they're in different configurations. Because it's not just THC in one form. Because it's synthetically made, you have multiple forms. And so who's to say that flipped molecule is causing side effects? I mean, a really
right.
big example is a morning sickness drug that in the lab was one configuration. In the human body, it flipped to another
Really?
and caused birth defects, missing limbs. I mean, it was really, really scary. So understanding that synthetic is, you can't beat evolution. I've said that before.
Right.
Millions and millions of years of evolution.
Touche.
It's a natural plant. We can maybe make it better, but I don't think that we should strip the natural aspect from it.
No.
Because it works.
No. And in fact, I think that what's going to happen is you're going to grow, you hope to have your strains where they're the ratio already, right? But maybe if they're not, maybe you've made your concentrate and you have a high THC concentrate, then maybe you have a high CBD concentrate, and then you do some
Formulation,
mixing,
yeah,
some
definitely.
formulation. So
And you can build to ratios that you'd like. There need to be more studies. 50-50 is a really good ratio right now, CBD to THC.
Right.
So you're right. You can titrate yourself. And
Right.
the other thing I tell people who are making their own medicine is there's a plus because you see everything that goes into it, and you are a
Definitely.
part of the process. It is quite scary that there's a lot of, I was talking to Sam before the show about scary Monsanto, coming into medical marijuana.
I'm sure
and he
they're
was
already
telling
there.
me that there's some grow nutrients, that are already that type of pesticide type,
nutrients.
Right. I mean,
And the pesticides are in the nutrients.
right, and so you're putting this in your bud, and so even if you flush, who's to say that that's not inside?
Or changed the molecular
right.
structure. See, that's
So-
the thing.
Testing to make sure that those poisons and toxins aren't in there is extremely important. And then being
Absolutely.
able to have transparency to see what is going on in your medicine. I mean, how can you know it's pure?
Right. Yeah, you can't. You got to test. And what's funny is that the reason that a lot of people don't have CBD genetics is because they didn't test a few years ago. The plant was ugly, low yield,
Right.
and didn't get you high. So people got rid of it, unfortunately. And if they would have been testing, they probably would have some great CBD genetics right now. But anyway, we are going to take a break, and then we will get back with Betty. Thanks so much. Blue Sage Microbes unveils the ultimate in superior soil, Ideal Soil, a 16-quart bag of the best growing soil ever engineered. Superior plant health and vitality is a direct result of the structure and chemistry of your soil. How good is your growing soil? Is your growing soil really balanced? How do you know? Well, Blue Sage Microbes has a newly designed growing soil that is the most advanced growing medium ever offered for cannabis cultivation. This is the only brand in the marketplace that provides growers with an ideal soil structure designed to work specifically with their cultivation systems. You will have your best grow results ever. Call now for a special introductory offer, 888-959-8551, or log on to bluesagemicrobes.com and experience a new level in growing. That's 888-959-8551.
Call Canisher at 1-800-420-5757 for all your insurance needs. Canisher understands the risks you face each day, and we are there to protect your business and your investment. Since 2010, Canisher has been serving the cannabis industry nationwide. Call Canisher at 1-800-420-5757 or visit us on the web at canisher.com to learn more about our insurance and risk management services. Proud member of the NCIA.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
And we're back. Chris gives us nice notice. And we're back. He's got his Bronco jersey on, though. Go Broncos, baby. We are going to crush the Raiders. Anyway. All right, so let's get to Betty. Betty, why don't you start with how you found your way into the cannabis industry?
My entry into the cannabis industry was entirely by accident. I was working with a very well-respected Colorado nonprofit doing volunteer leadership. I left that job with the intention of starting up my own consulting firm, but at about the same time, my neighbor was coincidentally opening the nation's first independent cannabis analytical lab, and asked me to come help him out with some plumbing and demo and runs to Home Depot, and I'm good at that kind of thing, so I thought, sure, okay.
Like, how fun.
Yeah, I can do that for a couple of weeks while I get my ducks in a row for this consulting gig, and by the end of the first day, I was director of business development or something like this, because our skill sets were such great matches, and it just seemed like such a fun opportunity. And, for a really, really, really long time, I've understood that, marijuana prohibition doesn't make any sense, that clearly patients should have access to marijuana medicine, and it was all sort of natural for me to understand that our current system didn't make any sense. We could do a lot better. But when I really started getting engaged in the medical marijuana community here in Colorado, I started to understand the politics of it much more deeply. About a year after entering the industry, at Full Spectrum, I moved on to the policy side of things. I started doing some consulting with cannabis related businesses and medical marijuana wellness centers and other types of facilities. And last year was lucky enough to be a leader on the campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol here in Colorado. So
Woohoo.
It's been a wonderful journey, and now I have totally won the job lottery. I'm the deputy director for the National Cannabis Industry Association, which is the only national trade association representing cannabis industry at the federal level. dedicated to representing cannabis industry at the federal level. Of course, Marijuana Policy Project and Drug Policy Alliance would like to see cannabis businesses have banking just like everybody else. We just fill this very specific niche for cannabis-related businesses. So my job is to travel around the country talking to people about how to build responsible, sustainable, and effective businesses.
That's like a dream job. Actually, one of my questions for you was, what's been your favorite part? And clearly it's now.
Listen, nothing's ever going to beat, and I don't think that anyone who works with me at NCIA would be upset with me saying this. Nothing's ever going to beat standing in a room full of people the night that we ended marijuana prohibition in Colorado.
Oh, man.
That was one of the single greatest days of my life.
Me too.
There's no question about it. But today I have the opportunity to work with people in Washington and California and Nevada and Arizona and Massachusetts, DC, and every other state where these cannabis industries are emerging. And I get to talk to them about talking about what they're doing and help them really connect what they're doing to the social good of a marijuana industry, of a marijuana community.
It's incredible because I've been honored and able to speak at 2 NCIA events now, and it's just amazing the evolution. And it's literally like kids in a candy store. They're so wanting to learn. They're like little sponges, and they're just so excited about it and so great. And that just pumps you up. You know what I mean? Like it gives you, because Colorado, it was a little crazy for a while and depressing and scary and all those great things, and it all turned around when that night of legalization, it was incredible. You're right. Like I just couldn't explain the energy there, but then when you get to go to these newbies, if you will, probies, they're just so excited that it just gets you right back into excitement mode again.
Absolutely. And really, I think that for those of us who work in the cannabis industry nationwide, no matter where we sit in that community, when Amendment 64 and Initiative 502 passed, it wasn't just that we were a rejection of prohibition policies. It was very strongly a rejection of prohibition policies, and I'm not discounting that at all. But it was also a validation of cannabis business being superior to the underground market. And voters really understood
what
that.
we'd all been working for
So hard
a
for.
long time. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely. I mean, incredible. What has been the worst part for you so far, would you say? Or maybe worst experience, or I don't know.
It is. So I don't know why I'm so emotional today. It must be you being able to be here with you gals.
Hey, that's totally fine.
It is so hard for me to get those messages from folks desperate for relief, who live in states or countries where they have no access to medical marijuana, and to have to tell them that I can't help them. I don't know anyone who can help them, and that their best bet is to pick up and move, and not everybody can do that. And these people are in just terribly desperate situations, and could so clearly benefit from cannabis medicine. And when one of those people was my grandmother, that was just heartbreaking, and
Yeah.
so there's that side of it. And it was also, the last 4 years that and in fact, just last month celebrated my 4-year anniversary in the cannabis business.
Congratulations.
Yes, in the cannabis world. The last 4 years have been incredibly tumultuous. They've been the most tumultuous of my life, and like I think all of us who have started early and have kind of ridden this wave, we've suffered greatly, and we have celebrated greatly. And so the blood, sweat, and tears have certainly been worth it. And we can start bringing, relief to more people across the nation if we can
Absolutely.
show that we're doing a great job of it in
I
places
know
like
it is,
Colorado.
and I've taken that on. Like it is up to us.
Absolutely.
It is up to us in Colorado to show that it can be done, that it can be done right, and that that regulating is the better way. Period. And then we'll be able to get people medicine that need it. I mean, it is that is probably the hardest part, is that you get calls and it's a plant, and you can't help people out with a plant. So what Colorado's going through right now is not enough CBD genetics, even though I believe Colorado has some of the best medicine on the planet. There's no question. There is such high demand for it that currently the way the system is set up is to have a red card, you first have to come, be a resident, apply for your red card. Then you can start getting your plants grown for you. In this case, CBD, because if you just needed THC genetics, then you could go to a dispensary and you'd be fine.
Right.
But for the CBD genetics, the people that have it literally are on back order. So, and it's so broken that if you come here, you still have to wait 90 days for a plant to be grown.
So how long is the residency period?
I think you just have to go and get your driver's license. I think
Okay.
you have to have a red or a place to
A
call
location.
home. Yeah,
Right,
because
right.
when I moved back, all I had to do was show them where I lived, and they, so you have your driver's license, and then you go in, but then you have to find a doctor. Then you find a doctor. Then you've got to get your card. Then you've got to find somebody that can get you CBD. Then they have to grow it. Whereas if we didn't have plant count, which we won't for recreational, somebody hopefully we'll have an abundance of CBD genetics where people can come. But unfortunately, I just don't see that happening because there are only so many places to grow here in Colorado.
And a lot of people, as far as the mentality for recreational, is still high amounts of THC,
Right.
because it's recreational, to get people as
Right.
high as possible.
Right.
I agree with you as far as CBD genetics. I think CBG is promising, CBC.
Yes.
And you're right. We've shown that we have. The
But then we have to
potential
start
do it.
over with those too.
Exactly.
So Can Labs will be able to detect those in the next month, and then great. But then you have to start over.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So one of the really exciting things I think about what's happening now in the adult use market is that we can really start looking at, not necessarily worrying so much about how people are using cannabis, but rather developing different applications for all of the different ways that they
Yes.
might like to. And
Yes.
I think that the future of cannabis is going to have room for all of these
Absolutely.
different markets, and one of them is going to be, and my belief is that it's going to be a very strong, stable, and robust market. Will be nutraceutical and wellness products,
Absolutely.
non-psychotropic, that are sold in like Whole Foods.
Yep.
Cannabis derived that are helping people. Everything from
Topicals.
topicals and lozenges and pills and the rest of it. But these products that will be specifically designed to help prevent Alzheimer's, to help with the anti-tumoric properties. Anti-tumoric properties, however you say that word.
Tumorigenic.
Tumorigenic?
Tumorigenic.
Oh, okay, great, thank you. And to help with the anti-aging, the anti-aging potential.
Gigantic.
Absolutely.
Well, cannabis
Every
anyway,
soccer mom in
isn't it?
America is going
Yeah.
to want to have
Yeah.
the cannabis-based face cream. If we can really prove out the anti-aging properties,
Yeah.
and I think that really is a very important feature that we should be considering when we're having this dialogue about how do we responsibly explore all of the various cannabinoids and terpenes that are available to us through the cannabis plant.
What do you think is one of the biggest myth about cannabis, or which one comes to mind? I mean, there's several, but but which one do you when you're talking to people across the country? comes to mind?
You know, one of the hardest questions for me to answer, which I still find myself having to answer in newer markets, you know, when we go to Nevada, when we go to Illinois, and we talk about this emerging medical cannabis market, frequently the media there is wrapped up in this idea that medical marijuana might be specific types of media, I should say, not all media, because there's plenty of media everywhere that's really well educated about this topic. But there are always a handful of reporters who ask, is this the camel's nose under the tent? And it's such a, i.e., is medical marijuana some sort of, sneaky Trojan horse for legalization, ultimately, for adult use legalization? Right. And I certainly can't deny that I am a strong supporter of moving marijuana out of the underground market and into the regulated market. But the notion that we are doing this work for patients just to make marijuana legal for adults is deeply frustrating.
Yeah.
And there are there are millions of patients in America who need access now, regardless of what's happening in Colorado, regardless of what's happening in Washington. And regardless of what we're going to do in 10 or 15 or 20 years with marijuana at the federal level, there are patients who are desperate now in Louisiana, in Oklahoma, in Arkansas, and all of these places
Utah,
where they just
Wyoming,
don't
Texas.
have access. And so that is a very difficult conversation for me to have.
It is. It's very difficult. And it's very interesting because today not only is my granny's birthday. Granny passed away a long time ago, but she was the world to me. But my dad just had prostate cancer surgery today. And thank God he is in a state that is medical, because don't think that he didn't get some of the best meds possible. And I'm lucky for that. But there's just so many, and just parents, what can you do for me? Like it's their child, so they're willing to, you know what I mean, ask and do anything, and it's just so frustrating.
What's sad is you don't see us having this conversation for other types of pharmaceuticals. We have to fight this huge backlash when it's completely self-evident, when a person is knowledgeable about the subject, that there's definitely no harm in allowing this as a medicine, and in fact it can help a lot, and it's non-toxic and safe. So I agree with you, it's extremely frustrating, but we've been going along this far, so far, and I really think that the tide is turning, and more sciences and facts are going to enlighten.
For sure. Why do you think the tide's turning?
Well, we've been having this conversation for a really long time.
Like, why now?
Right.
Why now?
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But why now?
Well, I think it's a convergence of a handful of different things. First, is that organizations like the Drug Policy Alliance, like Marijuana Policy Project, like Students for Sensible Drug Policy, have been talking for 15 years about why our marijuana laws don't make sense. And you have to have that conversation for a long time before people are going to start accepting it.
Sure.
In Colorado, we had the example of SAFER that demonstrated to Coloradans that marijuana is subjectively safer than alcohol, and therefore we can treat it the same. So that conversation's been happening. In conjunction with that conversation, there is a growing unrest in America with our current criminal justice system, and a growing understanding amongst Americans that drug-related charges, especially marijuana-related charges, are a gateway. Marijuana is not a gateway drug. Marijuana prohibition is a gateway into prison, into harder drug use, into and
Right.
so people are starting to understand that, and they've been when you look at my parents' generation, for example, they tried pot in college. Some of them still use it,
Right.
and they understand that it is perfectly acceptable social use substance. And then people in our generation, in their 30s and 40s,
Gen X.
Yeah, absolutely. We have familiarity with marijuana. We understand that it's not what we were told in our DARE programs.
No.
And kids coming up, the millennials and those young, in their 20s, really are completely uninterested in punishing other adults for what they do on their private time. Broadly. We're not just talking about marijuana or substance use. They don't care what people do behind closed doors. And so you've got this convergence of factors that, in conjunction with the conversation that these organizations have been pushing forward for such a long time, have created a very ripe opportunity.
A culture shift
for change.
Yeah, definitely. I think on top of that too, it's a unrest with pharmaceuticals. I mean,
I do too. Well, and they're them not working the way that, yeah. And you know what? We'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Canapunch is a delicious and effective medical marijuana beverage proudly made right here in Colorado. Each bottle is freshly infused with 100% pure flower extract from the highest grade marijuana plants available today. Using proprietary extraction methods, every bottle of Canapunch is consistently and reliably infused with an exact milligram dosage that you can count on to relieve your symptoms each and every time. Canapunch is delicious. There's never any medicine-y taste. We use only 100% cannabis flowers. No trim or byproducts are ever used in Canapunch. It does not require refrigeration and comes in convenient, resealable multi-dose bottles from 60 milligrams to 200 milligrams. We have drinks with dosage that works best for you. Canapunch is available in a variety of delicious flavors like black cherry, watermelon, pineapple mango, and blue raspberry. And we now have strain-specific beverages available just for you. Canapunch is delicious, convenient, consistent, and effective. Give it a try and experience the Canapunch difference.
Tired of dispensary hopping? Trying to find quality meds? Look no further and get to know Greenworks. Our shops are stocked with over 20 strains of organically grown meds, including R4, the highest tested CBD strain in Colorado. Yes, we back up our quality with testing. While Greenworks offers only the highest quality meds, we don't believe in high prices, with eighths ranging from $20 to $40 and ounces capped at $175. With 2 centers in Denver and 1 in Glenwood Springs, we're likely closer than you think. Call 303-647-5210 to find the location nearest you. The National Cannabis Industry Association would like to thank its members who represent the leading professional businesses in America's emerging legal cannabis market. NCIA is the only organization that has unified legitimate cannabis business across the nation to fight for real reform in Washington, D.C. For more information or to make your business a member, visit us online at thecannabisindustry.org.
All right, Betty.
So speaking of our parents' generation, I'm pretty sure that my dad is probably listening right now, and I want to wish him a very, very happy birthday.
Which handsome chap is he in this photo?
I shared him on Facebook. If you're my Facebook friend, this morning. He's the one in the leopard print shirt, of course.
Yeah! Check it out. Did you see it?
My dad has
awesome.
a kickin' sense of style, except for the whole white socks under sandals thing.
Oh, I did not see that. Dad.
And he still wears it like that.
He does. Oh my God, the guy to the left, I remember those shirts.
Ernie, yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah. That's his buddy Ernie. They used to work together at the telephone company.
That is awesome.
It's a great shirt.
Yeah, that's a great picture right there. That's fantastic. Okay, so let's wait, I had another question though along the same lines of policy. Well, when do you think it's going to be federally legal?
I get that question asked all the time. And I am just not willing to say
No?
such and such a date. But what I am willing to say is this. I set I figured that we would be looking at a 20-year fight from the time when the first state went legal. That's what I conceptualized my first couple of years. Adult use legal, not medical.
Oh, adult. Okay.
Got
it.
And that was what I was thinking in my first couple of years in this business, and I was so wrong about that. I think that we're the timeline is significantly compacted. I never imagined that we would see the pace of change and the shift in dialogue that we've seen since November 7th. When Colorado and Washington both approved their adult use measures, that changed everything about the way that we were having this conversation. It really changed the way that people were looking at it across the nation, and not just voters, but also elected officials. This year, we saw more pieces of legislation in state legislatures for both medical and adult use than we've ever seen before. There were, I think, almost 15 bills introduced in state legislatures for medical use of marijuana. Now, obviously, only a handful of them passed, and it wasn't, which is, of course, totally typical of bills in legislatures and bills in Congress. But the momentum is really with us right now, and so our responsibility is to make sure that we can capture it, we can hold on to it, we can keep the dialogue going, and we can demonstrate in Colorado and Washington, in Illinois and Nevada, Arizona and Oregon, that we can build responsible industries that are better for communities than the illicit market.
Why? Because I get this from a lot of people. Well, what am I paying for? Why does an industry like cannabis need an organization like NCAA?
Well,
I mean, I know why.
Right.
But for those out there, they're like, I don't need to, I'm fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you think that bank accounts are going to materialize by magic, or that 280E is going to be fixed by the wave of some, fairy godmother's wand, then please, keep on believing and don't join NCIA. But the fact of the matter is that every industry has representation in DC. Every industry has people defending its interests. And right now, what we need to defend for cannabis businesses is equality under the law. We need to have equal access to banking. We need to have equitable payment of taxes. And if we don't fix these two issues, it is going to make doing our job incredibly more difficult.
Absolutely. I can't even imagine not having a bank. I mean, I'm lucky.
Yeah, knock on some wood there, Jen.
Knock on wood. I'm super lucky. I can't even imagine. I mean, when you have to hire somebody to count money, that's all they do is count money. It's crazy.
It is an absolute nightmare for business owners. And for patients as well. I mean, we are forcing them to go to the ATM before they come to our shops. And, I can't tell you how many times I served patients when I was working in a shop who would have to, go back to the ATM because we had something in that they really liked and they wanted to make sure that they, picked up enough of it or whatever it might be. The inconvenience, the safety issues are of enormous concern. And we have an opportunity right now. I mean, the Justice Department has told us, finally, in the August 29th memo, exactly what boundaries we need to act within in order to
follow the law, your local state law.
Right. And make sure that we are helping to support the aid enforcement priorities of the Department of Justice, which are reasonable priorities. Let's not divert to kids. Let's not divert across state lines. Let's keep the criminal element out of things. Let's, keep guns and violence out of this business. And if we can do all of this, then we get to prove out our experiments.
Right.
It's going to be a heck of a lot harder to do any of those things if we don't have banking. If we can't invest in our businesses and invest in our employees and invest in our human and other capital adequately because we're sending, twice as much to the IRS as any other small business.
Right. And still, you don't have 100% membership. It blows my mind.
Well, that being said, Jen, I'm very happy to say that we have recently surpassed 300 members.
Oh my God.
I know, which is
that is
almost
phenomenal.
Yes.
In Chicago, I swear you had just hit 200.
It
Right?
it was like 250.
Oh my God!
About
well,
a month
fantastic.
ago. We're growing at an unprecedented pace. We have been all year, but we
Good.
need every
But
cannabis
still,
business
everybody needs
be
to
involved.
chip in.
Absolutely.
Well, and why should some chip in and not others? I mean, we all need to take care of each other. It's our industry. It's not your industry or mine. It's our industry, and everyone should pitch in. And anyone that tells me that they can't pay at least $100 a month makes me angry because I know they can. And, you need to show up. People need to show up and get involved and not let other people carry them through. I mean, and I just, I get angry when I'm talking to people and it's like, oh yeah, we can't afford it. What are you talking about? You can't afford it. You have a page ad in every magazine.
Well, and really, ultimately, and we can't afford not to fix these problems.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. If there was no NCIA, I can't even imagine what would be going on right now. I really can't imagine because no one would be looking out for us. And if anyone knows how important it is, it's me, because I was the one that had my head stuck in the sand for most of my life regarding politics and policies and stuff like that. For some reason, I just thought everyone else was going to take care of things. And here we are, 2013, and our country could be doing better. And I swear, that I hope that young people will realize that they actually have a say and that they need to go and get involved in things instead of just letting people, figure it out for you. Because that's exactly what they'll do. And here we are right
and
now.
that there's a future in this industry, too, because when I came out of college and I chose to go into cannabis versus Western medicine, you don't really get the same feedback now.
Right.
One of our interns, he had the support of one of his professors. Even though his professor wasn't really, into cannabis, he saw the potential of cannabis industry, specifically cannabis science, which is the fastest growing science in the world.
Right.
So
there will be a degree for cannabis science. I
Absolutely.
have no question. We got to take a break. We'll be right back.
Independent Records and Videos has been your locally owned and operated choice for music, movies, and lifestyle accessories since 1978. Independent Records and Videos has 7 locations from Denver to Colorado Springs to Pueblo to serve your entertainment needs. Whether it's vinyl, CDs, DVDs, books, smoking accessories, or hundreds of other fun and fanciful items, Independent is ready and waiting to make your dreams come true. We are always buying, selling, and trading vinyl, CDs, books, and DVDs, so sell yours and buy ours. Independent Records and Videos, your entertainment headquarters. Check us out at beindependent.com or on Facebook.
iVita Wellness is committed to compassionate patient care while providing the highest quality medicine at an affordable price. At iVita Wellness, patients can get top shelf ounces for $150 every day. iVita Wellness also carries pharmaceutical grade pure CO2 oil. iVita Wellness is located in Uptown Denver on 1616 Pearl Street, open 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can reach us at 303-952-9150 or our website at www.ivitawellness.com. iVita Wellness is Denver's Compassionate Care Center.
Green Faith Ministry is for spiritual guidance, MMJ information, and networking combined with compassionate care on the way to enlightenment with all Green Faith sacraments. Green Faith provides charity assistance, including medical and food throughout the year. Contact them at greenfaithministry.com.
I don't even remember where we left off. Oh, policy, my head in the ground. Oh, yeah. So thanks to this industry, I've really tried to verse myself now. I know a lot more about politics and policy and everything like that, and I just wish that I would have been more in tune as a younger adult for sure.
Well, last week and the week before, we were in D.C. for a really amazing series of events. Of course, we attended the the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on the state-federal conflict on marijuana laws, which was just extraordinary. I had never been to any sort of congressional committee hearing before. We got to sit in the first row.
I know, that was so incredible.
It was so cool, and just like as,
cannabis front row.
Yes,
as a person who's always been into politics, and as a person who obviously cares very deeply about this particular issue, to be able to go to that hearing as my first congressional hearing
incredible.
was just awesome, and to have James Cole sitting there saying, given that Americans are no longer willing to, I'm paraphrasing here, obviously,
Right.
but given that we have decriminalization in so many states, given that we have the explicit right of patients to use marijuana in so many states, and now in 2 states, the explicit right of adults to use and possess marijuana, then we can't leave that to the black market, and we have to work with states on creating responsible businesses. Oh my goodness, it's just groundbreaking. It's what we've been arguing for how long? And now the Department of Justice is saying, well, maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Right. And
That
and
was
it's
incredible.
like we all have a front row, seat to this change in history.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because it is that exciting, and you're talking about people who are getting into this industry that are really excited, and we feed off their excitement. I think it's
Right.
conversely true as well. Most people that I've met, the best people I've ever met have been in this industry, hands down, especially the women.
Women, yes, the cannabis women.
And just being able to talk to someone and they can feel that kind of excitement, passion, and the knowledge that you're giving them. And I think, we're at a pivotal moment, and so I
We
think
definitely are.
it's only a matter of time. I hope, within 5 to 10 years, we'll see national regulation. I
We
think
will.
Jen, maybe a little bit less time.
I thought it
than
was 10 when I started. The last couple of years I've been quoting 10 years, but now I'm down to 5, I think.
5.
You ladies are very optimistic, and I like it.
It's happening fast. People are
Yes,
sick of it, and once you see what it can actually do for a state, not only for health wise, but for economics as well. It's a no-brainer.
And the health of the earth too. The
healthy
green
earth,
aspect
yes,
is
yes.
hemp, especially.
Right.
It's amazing what it can do for our soil, our atmosphere. It's the list goes on and on. So 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I'm
so.
saying 5. Betty did not tell us, but she said it was faster than what she thought.
Faster than I thought.
Faster than you thought. So let's finish the show. Well, not finish because we still have about 8 minutes. But let's focus on NCIA. How can people get involved? Can regular people join? Do you have to be in the industry? Help us out with that.
Sure. So NCIA as a trade association accepts businesses as members. So it's
Okay.
not individuals who are members, it's the businesses. That being said, we have plenty of events across the nation that individuals are welcome to come to, whether they are members or not. We also have members-only receptions and things like that. But most of our events are open to the public, ticketed events. So you can find out more about that on our website, thecannabisindustry.org. You can also sign up for our mailing list in order to stay informed if you're not a business. But if you are a business, I urge you to come and join us. We are going to be doing this work whether you join us or not. We are going to, at someday, fix banking and fix 280E for you. And if you are willing to be carried on the backs of, of the people in industry who are willing to stand up and put their money where their mouth is, then fine. We're going to do it without you, but we can do it faster, stronger, and better if you join us. And it's just $100 a month to join for businesses, or $1,000 a year if you want to make an annual dues payment. When you become involved with NCIA, You get access to our newsletter, to these special members-only events. You get to join leaders in industry. In states like Colorado and plenty of others, you can actually save money when you join NCIA. You might actually...
I give a discount for members.
Can Labs gives a discount. Dixie Elixirs gives a discount. Canada Security America gives a discount. All sorts of different NCIA members give discounts, and you can learn about that, too, on our website. Hey, I'm going to pitch it again. Thecannabisindustry.org. Click on member discounts, and you'll be able to see all of the different discounts that you can receive when you become a member of NCIA. And if you use those discounts aggressively and take advantage of them, then you might actually end up saving money by becoming a member of NCIA. And then you can then you can increase your membership to the sponsoring or sustaining level if you find it worthwhile. We've also got some really, really exciting things on the horizon. We're working on, I don't want to say too much.
And you heard it here.
But we do have some very exciting things on the horizon. New ways for members to connect with each other, new ways for members to stay up to date, informed, and to receive resources that have never before been made available to them. So you can watch for the launch of some of these new resources in the next few weeks.
That's incredible. And listen, what I say is people call me all the time in other states, and they said, hey, who would do this, and how can I find a consultant? Join NCIA. That's where you're going to find the top-of-the-line businesses, top-of-the-line consultants, top-of-the-line attorneys that you know that are supporting the industry as well, which is very important. People in new states are going to NCIA as what word am I looking for? As information, as solid information that they know if they go to NCIA and find a company that they're going to be okay. Because let me tell you what, there's a lot of people out there that are consulting that don't know anything. And I will hate for these people in the new states to get caught up with people that absolutely don't know anything. NCIA also does not accept everyone either. If you're just like the industry, if you're not of good moral character and you're not of all of these things, that's not going to help the industry. So it is a great place to go to meet people. If you want to expand your business into another state, where should you go? NCIA.
We are the hub where the titans of industry, of cannabis industry, and the future titans of cannabis industry are connecting. And there is really no place like NCIA where people can connect in such an excellent way. I mean, we have people tell us that our networking receptions are the best business opportunities that they've ever had.
They are, clearly. I mean, I know, because it's happened to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And on top of all of that, you also get advocacy at the federal level where we are changing people's minds every day.
Yep, sitting with those people on the Hill having the discussion, because I can tell you what, from the time that we went last year in 2012, we went in September of 2012, a lot of the women, to June of 2013, it was like night and day. We had 5 congressmen, 4 congressmen, 1 congresswoman standing up for marijuana, fighting for us. It was incredible, and it just keeps getting better and better. And then I know you just said you guys had another round.
We did have another round of lobby days, very successful in D.C. We had the chance to meet with many new staffers and some of the same staffers and talk to them about the ever more pressing challenges of banking and 280E with the all of these new markets coming online. And we had a press conference with Representative Earl Blumenauer from Oregon,
yeah.
And Grover Norquist from Americans for Tax Reform, 2 people you would never expect to see standing next to each other, both decrying the unfair policies of 280E tax penalties. And so that was a really wonderful experience. And you can head on over to our website and click on the news link to see the white paper that Americans for Tax Reform authored on 280E. It's quite compelling.
And then there was 2 bills introduced, or was there one for taxes and one for banking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
There are a number of bills in Congress that NCIA is strongly supporting, this is 2240 and 2265, I believe, are the House resolutions dealing with banking and 280E, and then HR 499 is Congressman Polis's bill, which would reconcile state and federal law, removing marijuana from the Controlled Substances Act and putting it under the control of the newly renamed Alcohol, Tobacco, Marijuana, and Firearms Division.
Really?
Now that's a ways down the road. That's a futuristic bill.
Still, though, that's
but it's a
great.
really. I think that it probably is the future.
Well, I can tell you this, Betty. If I was sitting here and I had a choice of picking up a joint, a beer, or a gun, I would have to say it was as a joint. Wouldn't you, Tamar?
Absolutely.
What kind of gun?
Chris asks what kind of gun, but we're not going to tell him. Anyway, yeah, I mean, that's gigantic in itself. And, the fact that 2 things that are way worse than cannabis, tobacco, and alcohol. But you know what? We should have some freedom. And if people want to choose those 2, that's great. So, okay. So again, how can we get a hold of NCIA?
thecannabisindustry.org, and you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. On Facebook, just search National Cannabis Industry Association, and on Twitter, we are at NCIA.org.
Great. And if you want to sponsor one of their upcoming events, I highly recommend that you do that. Do you know when your next state is?
Well, we have a symposium. Oh, sorry.
You have an event.
We have
right?
an event coming up in Portland next Monday, in Seattle Tacoma next Tuesday. But our next big event is at the Medical Marijuana Business Daily National Conference.
Right, that's
we
what I was
have our 3rd anniversary celebration.
The Ganja Gala. Or wait, we don't call it that
we don't
anymore,
call it
do
that
we?
anymore.
Whoopsie! That was the first Ganja
Yep,
Gala.
I remember.
It was a fun event, but we don't call it that anymore.
Okay. I'm happy that you're going to have that. Steve and I are going, so that'll be great.
Yes, it's going to be a wonderful evening. Tickets are almost sold out, both for the conference itself and for the NCIA dinner. So if you don't have your tickets
gigantic.
yet, buy them today.
That is gigantic because I don't think so this is the 2nd national conference. The first one was last year here. I think it sold out at the very end, or did it? So that's impressive.
Yeah, we're pretty
This
excited.
isn't until November.
Yeah, we're very happy to have had our event sell out, and I think it's going to be a wonderful evening.
Fantastic. Well, Betty, honey, thank you so much for coming on. You have been such a gigantic inspiration in my path through cannabis, and I just want to
agree.
say, listen, if it wasn't for you, who knows where I would be.
Oh, thanks, ladies. I really appreciate it.
High five.
And Chris is giving a high five. High five. All right. Thank you so much. And next
Thanks for having me.
week, I can't remember. We'll have it up on iCannabisRadio.com. Take care.